Hey gang, it's Bryan from FXBilliards. In today's episode of 5 Must-Have Pool Shots, we're going to be looking at the exact same shot over and over again, but I'm going to show you 7 different ways to make this shot depending on the position that you need to get in after making the shot. So for each of these shots, first off, your ability to make the shot will depend on a number of things. I'm going to be using a low deflection cue because a lot of these shots involve English. If you have a standard deflection cue, you'll still be able to make the shots. They're just going to be a little bit more difficult for you. The other thing is if you're playing on a table that has tighter pockets or looser rails or tighter rails or anything like that, it will elevate or lower your ability to make the shot. If you've got dead rails on your table, some of these shots are going to be a lot easier for you to make. My rails and felt and everything have been recently replaced, so it's a little bit more lively. But if you're playing on a bar box or something where the rails are a little bit dead, some of these shots are going to be easier for you to execute. So keep an open mind. Check out the shots. For those of you who want to know the specs, my table is 8-foot slate. It is covered with Simonis 860 HR, and the felt is probably less than 2 weeks old right now. So some of the things I'm actually adapting to for the new felt. So I'm going to teach you, as I said, basically the same shot. The object ball is going to be between the first and second diamond, and the cue ball is going to be along this diamond and at the head string. So this first diamond at the head string between the first and second diamond. Whether you have a 7-foot table, 8-foot table, or a 9-foot table, you can set them up exactly the same. You can move closer to the ball if you're a beginner, which will make it a little bit easier for you to execute. But it's basically going to be the same shot. I'm going to show you how to get to different parts of the table in different ways using different types of English. So let's run the intro.
Oh, are we on the air?
So this first shot is going to be the simplest of the bunch. What we're going to be doing in each scenario is playing the red ball and getting position on the gold ball. So here we're just going to shoot a simple follow shot. Guys ask me all the time, what do you hit first, the rail, the ball? Technically, you are hitting the rail first, but I aim to hit the ball and the cushion at the same time. It's the way I've been shooting them since I was 12 years old. It's the way I shoot them today. It's almost impossible to strike this shot directly right before hitting the ball within a couple centimeters. So my aim point is always the ball and the cushion first on each one of these shots. I'm sure I make a subconscious adjustment when I'm putting a lot of English on it, but in the meantime, until you have an opportunity to practice them all, I'm aiming for that spot, that ghost ball spot between the ball and the cushion. The first shot is just simply a follow shot. You're getting on that ball. From this ball, I'm going to lob it down, just touching it. Regardless of the table you're playing on, you're going to get position on this shot. It's that simple. The next shot we're going to look at is the same shot, but this time with force follow, because we want to get down here on this 8 ball. Now, there's a number of ways to get on this ball, and I'm going to show you guys a number of different ways to get to different parts of the table. But here I'm going to be shooting a force follow. If you haven't seen my video on force follow shots, you should watch it immediately after this video so you can execute this shot. But I'm just looking to come off this rail without changing the trajectory of the cue ball. So I'm going to come off that rail and end up over here to get a shot on the 8. The shot looks like this. And you're on the 8 ball. One of the things that will change your angle is obviously where the cue ball is coming in from, because if I shot it over here, it's a whole different story. You will not get position on this shot shooting that exact same shot. But where your cue ball ends up, as far as whether it's coming off of here or coming off of there, just a couple of inches can be changed by where you make contact with this ball. I talked about hitting them both at the same time, and the ball and the cushion at the same time, and how impossible it is to come in at the exact spot. But if you're within a couple of centimeters, you're going to come within a few inches of getting this shot right. You're not going to end up over there just because you were off 2 centimeters. What I'm looking to do with this example is give you guys a common angle that you're going to shoot this shot. We saw what the follow does, and we saw what the force follow does. What if my object ball is over here? Now I want to shoot a follow shot, basically a force follow shot, with high right hand English. This is going to be inside English. The cue ball is going to be spinning counterclockwise, come off of that cushion, and this cushion to get down table. So again, I'm going to be playing this with high right hand English to come around the table with enough speed to get position on the 8 ball, which is now on this side of the table. And depending on the angle you have, you're going to have to be concerned about scratching here, obviously. There are ways to make an adjustment for that. If you feel that you have an angle that is going to cause you to scratch, the only thing you need to do is to adjust your speed. We know we can make this shot all along this line, starting probably about here is going to be an easy shot for us. So if there's a chance that you're going to scratch, make sure you adjust your speed. The other thing that you can do is adjust the amount of English that you put on the ball, and or adjust whether you shoot the ball with a running roll or with a force follow. Force follow actually starts to spin a little bit as it hits this rail here. So if you shoot it with force follow, you actually change the trajectory quite a bit versus just shooting it with regular high right hand English. The reason I use a force follow on this is because I want to make sure the cue ball makes it all the way around the table. If I shot it high right with just a regular follow stroke, you might get something that looks like this. So I'd rather get closer to this pocket and use proper speed than to have this happen to me. So it's one of those things you guys are going to have to practice it to develop which stroke is going to make the most sense for you, depending on the situation, depending on the table, and depending on your stroke. Let's look at the next shot. So here we have one of those parallel ball situations that I point out to you guys a lot when I'm talking about getting position. And the shot that I'm going to show you actually works for a couple different scenarios. If that 8 ball, the golden ball, was down here and on this rail, I could get position with a draw by coming back and hitting this rail. But also I can get the same position shooting the draw on that 8 ball up there. So whether it's there or here or a couple other places, depending on my speed, I can get position on that shot. Which you take is going to depend on a couple things. Where are the other balls? We're not always as lucky to have just 2 balls on the table when we're trying to get position. So whether you use force follow, draw, regular roll on the ball, it's all going to depend on where the other balls are and exactly where you want to be on the 8. I might not want to be straight in on this 8 ball shot. If I have to get position on another ball that say is there on that diamond, I want to make sure that I have a greater angle on the 8 so that I can come over here and get on that other ball. So all of these things you have to take into consideration as you learn these different shots and determine which way you're going to hit them. But here I'm going to shoot it with draw, no English at all. The object is to come back to get over here, where if there was a ball here we needed to get on, or in this case the ball there, we would be able to get on the shot. So here we got on the 8 ball. If it was here, there, we obviously made a position. Now here's one that I often refer to as the hardest shot in pool. And the reason is, I'm playing this ball that you want to go straight. I'm going to be putting, in this case, left hand English on this shot, which is going to spin the cue ball clockwise. Now, what I'm asking it to do is forget the fact that I don't want this ball to drift away from the rail. I want it to go straight. And I want it to come off this rail with a sharp angle. Because I'm putting the left hand English on it, I obviously want it to spin back here and to take this angle. What makes it a difficult shot is if you shoot it too soft, The cue ball is going to strike this object ball, which is going to be thrown away from the pocket. So what you want to do in this situation is you need to hit it with enough speed that gets it to the pocket and also brings it down table. The shot looks like this. And now we have reverse English on this shot. So when it comes off and it hits this rail, you can see that it stalls and then parks itself right behind that 8-ball. So that's a very powerful shot, but it is a very difficult shot. Let's look at a situation where we're going to use the opposite type of English, shooting this exact same shot. But this time, we're shooting our draw with right hand English. So our cue ball is going to be spinning counterclockwise as it comes off the rail. And I want you to see the difference in how it reacts once it hits that rail. Again, very difficult shot. You see how much closer we got to this ball? And had we not held back at all, our cue ball could have very well ended up over here. So, two difficult shots that you really should learn. If you don't have a long draw shot, you're not going to be able to make that shot. So that's a shot that's going to be a prerequisite. Couple tips. If you haven't watched my video on force follow, make sure you watch it. But because each of these shots, some of them involve a good follow shot or a good draw shot, I just want to give you guys a couple tips if you're not getting your follow and your draw. Tip number one, watch my videos on follow and draw. That is going to give you all the information you need to shoot a proper force follow or to shoot a proper draw shot. But in the meantime, I'm going to give you these basic tips. When you get down on the shot, here we're going to shoot, let's shoot a draw shot. When you get down on the shot, what you want to make sure is you have your cue as level as possible. Obviously, you can't be 100% level. We have this discussion all the time because the rail keeps you from having a totally level cue, but you do not want it jacked up at an angle. You want to have a level cue. You want to make sure you have good follow through. You're going to be hitting this cue ball extremely low, and you're going to have the confidence to follow through on a shot where the cue ball is being hit way lower than you're going to feel comfortable. The exact same tips apply when it comes to force follow. You're going to line up your shot, get down on it, elevate your bridge. You're going to hit this cue ball almost as high as humanly possible without miscuing and follow through. Make sure you have your cue as level as possible. Your follow through is, depending on your shot, is going to be 6 or 7 inches beyond the strike point on the cue ball, and that will give you the top spin that you need. Again, and I said this in my force follow video, it's the same shot. It's the only thing that differs is where you're hitting the cue ball. Have you had this shot where the cue ball and the object ball are both on the rail at the same time, both frozen to the rail, and you try to walk it down and you get that? And the reason this happens is because, one, the fact that the ball is frozen, it automatically wants to try to drift away from your cushions. So just striking it just a little bit into the cushion is going to cause you to have it drift away. Another fear that a lot of people have, and it's a legitimate fear, is that they're going to hit the edge, the second edge of the side pocket. And that happens a lot. I'm going to show you this simple trick to get past that edge of the table, to get to the point where you don't have to worry about the cushion pushing you away, because you're going to push yourself away intentionally. So what we're going to do is we're going to put left hand English on the ball, which is going to cause it to deflect. This is what deflection is. You put English on a ball on the left side, it starts to move to the right. But the other aspect of English is curve. And curve is going to bring it back to this side, and just in time for us to make our shot. So what we're doing is letting the natural deflection that occurs by hitting a ball with English happen, and the natural curve that happens from the ball spinning clockwise in this case, bringing it back to our shot, it is going to be very subtle. We're talking about, fractions of an inch, but it's enough that you'll be able to see it in this shot. Now you say, Bryan, well, how do I aim and adjust for that? You don't have to. That's the great thing about this shot. I'm shooting it as if I'm trying to make it straight. The deflection and the curve are going to happen naturally. So I'm shooting right down the pipe here, and the cue ball is going to leave the rail and return to the rail just in time to get to that shot. Now, when I say just in time, it's going to depend on the length of your shot. If it's a very short shot, you have to worry about things a little bit differently. Now, this is what I mean by short. I'm not talking about close to the edge. Things are going to happen very briefly, and you're not going to have time for that ball to get back into place. So if you have a situation where these balls don't have time to readjust, what you're going to do is put a lot less English on it, and you're going to hit it just as straight, and you'll be able to make the shot. So I'm using less English. I'm not hitting it as low because I don't have as much time for that ball to return to the rail. So this is one of those things. I talk about shots that are about touch and things that are knacks, and this is one of those things. So practice this shot because it does come up an awful lot, and you need to be prepared for it. So don't forget to subscribe. Hit me up in the comments. Let me know what you think, and share the video with your friends. Have a great day.